Hello! Today I'm going to show you what I used and how I made my album. I have been working with FabScraps 100th collection, paper collection. They decided to go with a steampunk version. And of course, if you know me, I am mad about steampunk. So, of course I had to get my hands on some. I decided to buy the paper pad because it gives you 3 sheets per design. The paper is double-sided, so it has an A side which has the main design on it, and then it's got the B side which has also a gorgeous design on it. So there are 2 sheets left in here of each design because I pulled out one of each design to create my album. So I cut 5 by 7 sheets out of this. So you can usually get out of a 12 by 12 inch sheet, you can get 3 5 by 7s. It just depends on how you cut your paper. Obviously that's easier if you're doing it out of plain cardstock and you're not trying to get at specific designs, but I'm just showing you these so that you can see where my various pages came from. They're absolutely gorgeous, and even the B-sides are gorgeous, but I used mainly the design sides. Right, that's it. Okay, so then the other thing they've got stickers, and they've got these tags and these little tags. I stand to be corrected, there were either 3, I think there were 3 or 6 of each of these. I don't have the packaging anymore, so I can't remember how many there were, and I've used quite a lot of these in my album. This is all the paper that's left from all the sheets there that I used. So right, let's show you my album. And I know here in South Africa we work in centimeters, but I work in inches just because our paper is in inches. I've learned to think in inches. So I've cut 5 by 7 sheets. This is the cover. I've made the cover myself using chipboard, fabric, gel medium to cover the whole thing, to actually put it together. I've used the fabric to make the hinge. I've covered the cover in texture paste, and then I've impressed stamps into it, so that's where you can see the bricks. And I've then used distress ink over the top, followed by Tim's crackle. So I've done that on the back as well. I didn't put texture paste on the back. This was just raw fabric that I put the crackle on. And then when I sprayed it with the distress stand, the espresso, obviously it soaked in even more where the fabric was still porous. So my Truth Coffee logo I created using my 3D printer. So that is dimensional. I don't know if you can see that on the video. The Truth Coffee is actually dimensional. This is my journey starting in 2014 right through to today of my journey with Truth. Truth Coffee is the most amazing coffee shop in Cape Town. It's 36 Buitenkamp Street, and they have won best coffee shop in the world, and I think they deserve it. I love their coffee, but you know, with all these things, it's all personal. But I'm addicted to their coffee. So this is my journey with them. This is their building. 3 partners got together and bought it and renovated it and decided to put the coffee shop in it. And it actually has a coffee roaster, the only green coffee roaster I think in the southern hemisphere, as in it runs on bio oil. And so that is their actual beautiful building. The coffee shop itself is down there. So this is my desk. on any given day when I'm working on these huge projects. It's covered in a million different things that I'm working on. And this is how it all began. It began with a canvas. And that canvas was created because Tim produced, well, he's produced 3 books called Compendium of Curiosities. He's got book 1, book 2, and book 3. And Linda Ledbetter was running online competitions for this book. And I decided to enter the competition. I can't remember what number. And Tim had just been here in March of 2014. And in fact, if you look here, that's my whole blurb. I've typed it out and put it in my book. And Tim had just been here in the March, and I decided to do a Truth Coffee meets Tim Holtz, or Tim Holtz meets Truth Coffee as my theme for this particular entry. And as luck would have it, my entry won, and I got the most amazing pack of Tim Holtz goodies. And so I then tweeted my canvas. It's just a little 12 by 12 inch or 30 by 30 centimeter. I tweeted my canvas on Twitter, hashtagged Truth, and David from Truth came back and said they would love it, they would like it. So I said, well, you can have it. And that's where it all started, because then when I took it in, he asked me if I did commissions, and I said yes. So back in 2014 is when I started, in about the June, negotiating with them as to what they wanted. These pages here come out. These are just loose for pretty sake. And these are all my pages from my journal. That's a sketch I did while sitting at Truth of their coffee. So these are my costings, the stickers of things and so on that I have collected en route. Here's another sheet. This was the other page. Ideas, sketches, prices, and so on. You get the idea. So those are loose to be able to pull out. Then what I did, so that they could actually see my work, because of course all they'd seen of mine was a 12 by 12 inch tiny canvas. So the wall we were talking about working on was 4 meters by 2 meters. And so I decided to do this dress form for them using Tim's industrial metal look. And so I got hold of a sort of full-size normal adult dress form, and I have covered the whole thing in the foil. So if we start here, you can actually see how I sketched with Koki onto the blank dress form, started adding my sticky back tin foil sheets bit by bit by bit, slowly covering the whole thing. And then instead of just using black, I've actually used normal acrylics on her to get the other colors, so the beige and the brown. So, and then I've actually foiled this background. I haven't added any paint to the background. I've just left it really, really shiny. So here's more photographs of close-ups, and there she is, finished. So once I showed them that, we finalized on where we were going with the design. And again, these are just from my journal. So that is the one side, and that is, oops, that's upside down. That is the other side. That's the booth. So there are the suitcases. There's the airship idea. It was just a quick sketch. And so I have put those in a pocket over here. And this pocket flips open. There's nothing on this page. It's just pretty for pretty sake. This pocket flips open, and on any given day in my house, there will be stuff drying on my back lawn. These were actually painted silver. Then I decided I wanted them copper, but I didn't take another photograph. So these were all the pipes and things that I sprayed copper. I use a lot of plastic because I can't work with metal. It's too heavy, and secondly, too expensive. So there's that. Then for fun, I decided to make each of the 3 partners a hat of their own. So this one was Richard's hat, the white one. Then on the side is David's hat. Whoops. So he's got the metal foil hat. And then on this side we've got Andrew's hat. Oops, it's shining on the with my lights. It's a bit difficult. Okay, there we go. So that's a full pull out of all three hats. Here we've got the photographs of before. The dress form actually is standing over here, so you can see her back in that mirror. They had nothing on the walls other than a few things. So here are the before photographs. So it's a nice blank canvas. That's 4 meters by 2 meters. It looks tiny in the photographs, but I promise you it's huge when you're actually working on it. Here I put the dress form in already. You can hardly see her. I mean, if you think that she's life size, and she's so tiny in that picture, and there she is up against her mirror. Then I started working on the little details that would be going onto the wall. I took a cheap plastic kiddie's alarm clock, covered it in gesso, texture paste, beads, alcohol inks, you name it, to make it look like it had been rusted and worn and been under the sea for goodness knows how long. Then I took an old suitcase. This is one I got from a car boot sale, and it was really tatty and revolting, but of course I didn't mind because I covered the whole thing in, again, Tim's foil technique, and distressed it with some black soot distress paint. There's a lot of blue. It looks very blue here, but that's because I'm working on a blue ground sheet outside. So you've got the sky, which is blue, and you've got the ground sheet, which is blue. That gives you a better idea. So no, the suitcase wasn't blue, it's just the ground sheet. Then I made myself some goggles because you need everything to be as big as possible. So I took some, these are PVC drain pipe attachments that normally goes around your down pipe. It's so that a smaller pipe can attach to the down pipe or drain pipe or whatever it is that you're using. I took them apart, cut off that extra bit, spray painted them of course, added leather trims, distressed it with distress paint, and finished it off with some metal pieces and some ribbon. That's actually ribbon with, it comes like that. Unfortunately they don't make it anymore. I bought them out of stock, so if anybody's looking for it, there ain't no more. Then this is the banner that I painted by hand. It started off, you can see here it says airship, and you won't be able to see it in the video, but it says pirates underneath. So I hand drew it up, hand painted it, and then texturized the background with a special technique. Here you can see it finished, and that's another close-up of some of the lettering. What I've put up here in all this wording is my explanation of the actual installation and my whole meaning behind it and so on. Then close-ups of how I made the little guy to go on it. Then this is how to build an airship. And I took step-by-step photographs. I worked on this over months and months, slowly but surely. Started off with some kiddies hula hoops in different sizes, some electrical conduiting and cable ties, and some duct tape, and cable tied it on till I had them all on. I had measured, of course, where they had to go. It wasn't just random. I didn't randomly cable tie them on. So there we have the final shape. This fan was metal and really, really heavy. Here I've started to glue the fabric on. I used gel medium. Here's just the different gluing processes. I did it separate until I had half together. Then I had the whole thing covered in fabric. Then I started painting her and adding the distress. Here is an electrical light fitting that I put in. It's just a fluorescent tube. MacGyvered it so that it would hang inside, and here you can see the light on. That was before I finally finished painting. I had to sew in some little hatches over here with Velcro so that if the light goes out, they can actually get at it and change the fuse or change the actual light bulb. Then this is what's called the gondola that hangs underneath her. I showed you the building at the beginning. I decided to create a building within a building. So I manipulated it. This front bit is the actual building as it is, and I'm only using the top 2 layers. I'm actually not using the coffee layer of the building, the 3rd floor or the ground floor of the 3. And then I repeated it over there, and I had those printed. So I designed that on my computer and I had those printed to scale. And the bottom of the gondola I did so that it looked like brick. Here I'm doing the stencil work. I've created a stencil using one of Tim's dies, and then I'm using texture paste through the stencil. I then painted it with distress paint and rubbed, I've got a coffee archival ink that I rubbed over the top to catch the raised areas. So there's the gondola upside down, and the gondola is the building within the building. So that's just a little fun thing. And as I mentioned earlier, this what's it called, fan, was really heavy, and I didn't know any way that I would be able to attach it safely onto the airship so that it didn't fall on somebody's head, and also so that it didn't affect the center of gravity of the airship, so it would hang properly. I created it out of another one out of foam. So I used a little cone, you know, those cones that they put in the road, but this is a mini one. It's tiny. I don't know, it came with a soccer kit or something of my son's that he no longer used, and I used foam core and I created my own fan. There she is lit up in my garage. I added cogs and paper. There were paper cogs that I gel mediumed on, so she's hanging here, and there's the gondola underneath. So that is how I made the 3-meter airship. Her nose is a vuvuzela. So with the vuvuzela, she is 3.5 meters long. This is how I actually created the 2 meter by 4 meter background. I used 3 pieces of plywood. No, not plywood. Oh crumbs, what's it called? Anyway, board. And painted it a beige color just as a background. Laid out all the things that I had on 3 tables. This is in my studio where I teach. That's the chaos. And just planned it out. I had bought a huge giant clock to go on here that I had bought at Coricraft, but it was so big it couldn't fit in my car. I'd had it delivered, so there was no ways I could get it to the studio. So it just lived at home, and I just did a newspaper cutout of how big it would be so that I could visualize. And this is just me playing around, visualizing, laying things out, starting with the background work of the painting, painting all the colors where I needed them. This is painting behind where the clock would be. That's me. I know the picture goes that way. It's a portrait picture lying landscape, but tough. I couldn't change the waterfall of pictures. So you can see how small I am against that whole thing. That is a little matchbox so that you can see the scale. And that's it, pretty much finished on the floor. I eventually had to work on the floor because it was so big. And this is all made out of polystyrene. This is one of their staff members. I took a profile, asked him to pose for a profile photograph. That is cut out of polystyrene, so it is dimensional. Then again, I used Tim's foil technique in the background with the embossing folders. And then this frame is also polystyrene that I bought at the hardware store and I cut and glued together. So this whole thing is polystyrene. It's quite big. It's about 60 by 90 centimeters. Then this is how she traveled in the Truth van. Truth sent their van to fetch the airship and the backing boards. The backing boards we managed to fit underneath. And so she traveled with her nose sticking out the back of the van and me traveling behind her. Then she lived underneath their coffee for a couple of hours, hung there. Whoops, bumped my iPad. So she lived underneath the coffee until I could get the team together, and Patrick and Nathan from Truth helped me. That was the blank wall, standing it down on the floor. Now I had pre-drilled, pre-organized where everything had to go, and so that's all 3 panels up. That's me helping. This is how the clock had to travel on the roof of my car because it couldn't fit in my car. There's the clock up. It's huge. It looks so tiny when you're actually there. It is 2 meters wide, that clock. And yeah, so the process, I even had my son there helping. That's him busy gluing this guy to go on the wall. That's the airship from underneath before they put the fins on. And the fins, by the way, are actually a part of their logo. And here it all is. So when I first put it up, there's my dress form, and there's my design in the background, and there's my airship. It hangs above the booths. And that's the same picture, just different angle. Then you see this part over here looked a bit disconnected in front of the dress form, so I then did some pipe work and added that a few weeks later, and I now have 4 spaces that I can put my artworks in for sale, that Truth sell on my behalf. And then so this was finished. I did this, we installed it in January of 2016, so she's been up for a 1.5 years. And the cool thing was, when CNN did 24 Hours in Cape Town, they came and did a thing on Truth, and they homed in on my piece. A friend of mine sent it to me as a WhatsApp. She took a photo of her TV screen that she'd paused. It was so exciting to see my stuff on CNN. And then this is the 2017, because at the front it says 2014 to 2017, and as I said, I finished this in 2016. What Truth has allowed me to do is, because they have customers who want to take stuff home, they don't really have merchandise to buy, so they've allowed me the wall space, as I said, to hang canvases. So that's all 4 of my current canvases. And I also sell little hats, fascinators. These are the little fascinators in front, and that's a full-size hat at the back, and that's just another view of another display. Fascinators in the front and a full hat at the back. So they sell those on my behalf. And then the latest project that I'm busy with is the pods, as I call them. They have these various pods that had their coffee and their cups, and there's still a coffee bag in that one for sale, but they've decided that they're going to move all of that to the back where the actual coffee demonstrations happen, and they want different artworks in these pods instead. So I've done a fake cake, a hat, an airship, and a hand at this stage, and that's all that's in. So here's a close-up of the airship. I've since changed the airship to a metal ball because my original idea was to put a light inside there, but we've decided to change that, so I've added a metal ball. My hand with the little mini submarine on its finger, the hat. Here is a close-up of the cake, and then here's just 3 different views of the hat, hand, and how I made the cake. So all of these things are in my album. And so yeah, on this side it's all the pretty stuff, and on the other side are my photographs, and they all just go in the pocket like that. So I have used all of FabScraps paper, and I've used craft paper, and I have used black cardstock. So, and then this piece of leather I actually embossed through my Vagabond, and it took the embossing. I don't know if you can see it on the video. So yeah, that's my album, and I've had an absolute ball going down memory lane and finally having something to remember my journey with. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll see if I can answer them. Bye guys.